More than 40 Palestinians are killed in Israeli shelling in northern Gaza as humanitarian organizations warn of the deterioration of the humanitarian and health situation. At least 2 people are killed in an Israeli raid in Lebanon as Hezbollah launches drones targeting the home of Israeli Prime Minister. And the total in-country value of private institutions operating in the Sultanate of Oman amounts to more than 8.5 billion Omani riyals during the second quarter of 2024. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. More than 40 Palestinians, most of them women and children, were martyred and dozens were injured as a result of a renewed Israeli shelling of northern Gaza. The Palestinian Ministry of Health said the occupation forces launched violent raids and fired shells from gunboats at populated homes in Jabalia camp, indicating that a number of martyrs and wounded are still under the rubble and on the streets, and that the health situation has been becoming catastrophic in light of the shortage of medical supplies. The spokesman for Al-Auda Hospital also indicated that the Israeli army targeted the upper floors of the hospital in the northern Gaza Strip with an airstrike. For its part, humanitarian organizations warned of the deterioration of the humanitarian and health situation in the northern Gaza Strip due to the siege that Israel has been imposing for 2 weeks. In Lebanon, at least 2 people were killed in an Israeli raid on a car in Junia, north of the capital Beirut, in the first attack by Israeli forces on the area. For its part, Hezbollah launched 3 drones towards northern Israel, and a spokesman for the occupation forces said it intercepted 2 drones in the airspace of Haifa, while another drone directly hit the home of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Caesarea, causing a large explosion in the building, indicating at the same time that Netanyahu was not in the area and there were no injuries. This comes amid reports of a large-scale attack carried out by Hezbollah with missiles and drones on several Israeli cities and settlements since the morning hours, which resulted in the death of 1 person and the injury of 14 others. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, said that a ceasefire is a priority in the Middle East. In statements to reporters at a meeting of G7 defense ministers in Naples, Italy, Borrell called for a ceasefire and the release of hostages and the search for a political horizon. The European official added that the mission of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, must be strengthened after it came under fire in clashes between Israel and Hezbollah, adding that it's up to the UN Security Council to make a decision on UNIFIL. Russia and Ukraine exchanged 190 prisoners of war in a new deal between the 2 countries. The Russian Defense Ministry stated that it had exchanged 95 Ukrainian prisoners of war in its possession in exchange for a similar number of Russian prisoners held by Ukrainian forces. On another note, Ukraine announced that it had received the bodies of 501 soldiers killed during clashes with the Russian forces, while Shamsil Saralyev said that his country had received the bodies of 89 of its soldiers in return. Despite the ongoing war between the 2 sides since February 2022, Moscow and Kiev have exchanged hundreds of prisoners in several deals, with the last of which was last September when 206 prisoners were exchanged. A choking haze enveloped New Delhi today as air quality nosedived into the hazardous category, leaving residents gasping with breathing difficulties and eye irritation. The Indian capital's iconic monuments, buildings and roads were veiled in a thin smog, partially obscuring visibility. A New Delhi resident told local media that the pollution is increasing day by day as the winter approaches. Then Diwali, which is the Hindu festival of lights, is also approaching, which will further lead to a rise in pollution levels. The government must do something about it, he said. New Delhi was rated the world's most polluted capital last year by IQ Air. Emergency workers in France carried out operations to clear flooded roads and remove debris after heavy rains led to what appeared to be the biggest flooding in central regions of the country in 40 years. France's Prime Minister said that firefighters and other rescuers had been involved in about 2,300 operations, some of them life-saving, following the adverse weather. Michel Barnier visited French authorities' crisis center in Paris and said there hadn't been such violent rain in many people's memory. Over 1,000 people were evacuated. Most of them were able to go back home. Environmental groups in Brazil have raised the alarm about critically low water levels in the Miranda River, one of the main tributaries of the Paraguay River, which forms the tropical wetland area of the Pantanal. The water levels of the Miranda River is at critical levels, with a water level of less than 50 centimeters in stretches that previously registered more than 5 meters. Environmental groups recorded the critical state of the river during a boat exhibition on September 5th, accompanied by environmental police officers. With the lack of vegetation, the river has a natural force that drags sediments which alter the depth level of the river and cause navigation problems. In addition to the low water levels, erosion alongside the river has intensified, leaving fences and tree roots exposed along the banks where the ground has eroded away. Back to our local news, the total credit balance granted by the Omani banking sector companies increased by 3.3% at the end of last August to reach 31.4 billion Omani riyals. Data issued by the Central Bank of Oman showed that credit granted to the private sector recorded a growth of 2.8% to reach 26.3 billion Omani riyals. Total deposits in the banking sector recorded a growth of 11.6% to reach 31.1 billion Omani riyals by the end of last August. Muscat Stock Exchange's main index broke the 4,800-point barrier last week, recording its best levels since the 3rd of June 2024. The main index of the stock exchange recorded a weekly increase of 49 points, with increased demand for investment in the stock exchange and local investment institutions raising their purchases and diversifying their investment portfolios. The increases witnessed by the Muscat Stock Exchange last week pushed the market value of securities listed on the exchange to rise to 24.7 billion Omani riyals, recording weekly gains of about 134 million Omani riyals. The total in-country value of private institutions actually operating in the Sultanate of Oman amounted to more than 8.5 billion Omani riyals during the second quarter of this year. Statistics issued by the National Center for Statistics and Information indicated that the added value of large institutions by the end of the second quarter of this year amounted to more than 6.3 billion Omani riyals, with an increase of 4%. The added value of medium-sized institutions amounted to more than 642 billion Omani riyals, while the added value of small institutions amounted to more than 673 million Omani riyals. The Financial Services Authority indicated that the shares of OQ Exploration and Production Company are expected to be listed on the Muscat Stock Exchange on October 28th, as the subscription witnessed a great turnout from investors of different categories. The authority indicated that this great turnout confirms the confidence of investors in the Omani capital market and its ability to finance large investment projects, stressing at the same time that these subscriptions enhance the role of the capital market sector as one of the effective sources of financing in the national economy. It also explained that the Muscat Stock Exchange will witness new subscriptions during the coming period, as it is expected that some shares of Salala Methanol Company will be allocated for public subscription by the end of this year and Asiyat Shipping Company at the beginning of next year. The Social Protection Fund will begin tomorrow receiving applications for registration in the Family Income Support Benefit for all segments of society through the registration link on the fund's website for those who meet the eligibility requirements. The Family Income Support Benefit is one of the benefits of this system, which provides financial support to families in the Sultanate of Oman whose cases require care and support and aims to improve their living conditions. The eligibility for the benefit depends on the number of family members, their income level, and the ability of its members to earn. It also aims to enhance social stability, to reduce social gaps, and achieve social justice in addition to providing decent living conditions to ensure that families receive financial support that helps them face economic challenges. The Consumer Protection Authority in Al-Dhahra Governorate organized a workshop on combating counterfeit and fake spare parts for vehicles and intellectual property issues in this regard. The workshop hosted a number of experts representing spare part sales agencies to highlight the differences between original and counterfeit goods. It is worth mentioning that the Consumer Protection Authority, through its inspection campaigns on commercial districts and workshops, seeks to monitor the violations in related fields, as the number of complaints filed in the authority this year reached around 779 regarding various products. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main headlines once again. More than 40 Palestinians are killed in Israeli shelling in northern Gaza as humanitarian organizations warn of the deterioration of the humanitarian and health situation. At least 2 people are killed in an Israeli raid in Lebanon as Hezbollah launches drones targeting the home of the Israeli Prime Minister. And the total in-country value of private institutions operating in the Sultanate of Oman amounts to more than 8.5 billion Omani riyals during the second quarter of this year. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, thank you for watching. Have a good night.